And now it is bracket time, baby.
Oh, yeah. You ready to get into this?
I'm ready for you to show us the way.
Show us the way?
Take my hand and lead me to the promised land,
Dude,
please.
I'm excited for it. All right, we're going to start in the East here. So I think we've got a pretty obvious first pick here. It is UConn versus Stetson. UConn is the easy favorite here, easy pick. We definitely are rolling UConn. Next up, we have FAU and Northwestern. And I'm going to take not Northwestern. I'm going to take FAU again. And then I've got San Diego State versus UAB. I'm going to take San Diego State, 5 seed here. Now we're getting into my first upset pick. We've got Auburn versus Yale. And I'm going to take Yale to upset Auburn here.
God, I hate
13
this pick.
seed. Yeah, I had a feeling you were not going to like this one because
Yale barely beat 13 and 18 Brown.
I know, but this could just be a sneaky one, dude.
Could be sneaky?
I saw that you have Auburn going pretty far here. But
yeah, I have made like 4 brackets already. Actually, put one in the little podcast doc that we have, removed it, and then put a new one in there.
Wow.
Just because I've changed my mind. I've had so many mixed emotions on all this. But what I have not changed my mind on is that Auburn will boat race Yale.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right. Well, I guess we'll see what happens. Next up, I've got BYU to beat Duquesne. And then another interesting upset here. Morehead State to beat Illinois.
I cannot believe this.
Bro, here's the thing. You've got to pick Morehead State. Everyone loves Morehead, right? I mean, why are you going to take...
Dude, I honestly felt like you picked them because of the name. Like,
you have to, bro. You have to.
I mean, I like Morehead as well. But unfortunately, you can't always get what you want. And we live in Illinois, the middle of absolute nowhere, permacloud, Midwest, tundra, Siberian winters. So I ain't getting no head.
I love that. All right. Next up here, I've got Drake beating Washington State. Now, another upset. You like this one?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Drake's actually favored in this game as well.
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah, we kind of just had to pick them after we sniped Drake to win their conference in the conference tournament pool we were in. So I like taking Drake as an upset here. And then to close it out, at least the first round, I've got Iowa State, 2 seed, taking the win over South Dakota State, the 15 seed. Do you want me to keep going and finish off my East, or do you want to
finish off your whole thing?
The whole thing.
Do the whole thing. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Give it to me in full, baby.
So do you want me to go through all of the round ones?
Yeah, do all the round ones.
Okay.
You know, I might. Yeah, you could do it that way. I probably will do them by like 1 and 16 matchups. I will do all the 1/16s just because it's interesting to talk about those and compare them at the same time.
I got you.
You do it that way.
All right. I will go down to the West now. All right. So for the West, we've got North Carolina against How-Wag.
Yeah, so Howard and Wagner will play, and then whoever wins that game will face North Carolina. But I would definitely take North Carolina.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, I'm taking North Carolina here. Even though they didn't win their conference tourney, they're still easy favorites as the number 1 seed. Next up, we got Mississippi State against Michigan State here. I'm going to take an upset. I guess it's hardly an upset because it's just the 9 seed versus the 8 seed, but I'm going to go Michigan State here. Then we've got St. Mary's against Grand Canyon. This one should be kind of a surprising upset because St. Mary's will definitely be favored, but I'm going to take Grand Canyon. Although I do think this is going to be a very, very good game. Do you concur with that? This should be a good game or no?
Yeah, I mean, see, my thing with Grand Canyon is I would love to pick them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're from Arizona. I love Arizona out there. Would love to see them go on a little Cinderella run, but they play in such a piddly conference that there's another team that's like that had a great season. McNeese is a good example. They've had a great season. They have a good record. They won their conference tournaments, but they just have not played really anyone of too much stature. And if they did, it was long ago in their non-conference segment of the year.
I gotcha.
St. Mary's is a really solid team, and so I would not be picking this upset personally, but I could see it more than this next one that you have.
Yeah, I'm actually going to take Charleston here over Alabama, and I know you might think this is a crazy pick, but dude, Alabama, not a fan of their defense.
Their defense is poo.
It is so bad, and that defense wins championships, bro.
Yeah, well, that's why I like St. Mary's. They have a really good defense. But, yeah, this will definitely be a higher scoring game. I'll give you that. And I would love to see Charleston win. I have gone there many times. Beautiful city. Great, great school as well. And so, I mean, I hate Alabama as well. So, I can't see it, though. I just think they'll out-talent them. But it would be interesting to see a 12-13 matchup here next.
I know. That would be absolutely wild. All right, next up, I'm going to take Clemson here over New Mexico. Then I've got a crazy upset again. Colgate, 14 seed, taking down Baylor in the 3 spot.
You're a madman.
Am I?
You're a madman.
Am I? I've got some wacky upsets here, dude.
Let me pull out some stats here for you real quick.
You obviously don't like this pick one bit.
Yeah, I don't like your last 4 in a row.
Okay.
But stats on the round of 64 here. So, in 16v1 matchups, only 2 16 seeds have ever pulled it off. Of course, that did happen last year.
Yeah, Purdue lost.
Purdue and Farley Dickinson. So right here, you have a 14 being a 3. That's only happened 22 times. They're 22 and 130, which is a 14.5 win percentage.
It's about to be 23 and 130.
31.
Yeah.
Then for 13 and 4s, they're at 21%, 32 and 120. You also have the 12 and 5 upset. That's up all the way to 34 and 9/10% chance of happening. 53 and 99. But I just want to go to show that it is extremely rare for these to happen. It only does happen for 12 and 5. It's like a third of the time. So you really only should have one on the bracket ski here. And yeah, there's one that I like a little bit better. And I think you have 2 or 3.
I did take a lot of upsets.
You have 2 12s over 5s.
Yeah, I was trying to target a good amount of upsets. I know that's probably not the best way to fill out a bracket because you're supposed to kind of do it the way that the odds tell you.
Yeah, well, the thing is you want to have the higher seeded, eventually, you will have more 1 seeds. Let's say 3 1 seeds make the Final Four or something, or maybe 2, something like that. That's pretty likely to happen. They're 1 season for a reason. And because you would have guessed correctly half of the Final Four teams, you're awarded more points for that in terms of the bracket competition. Whereas even if Grand Canyon does beat St. Mary's, that's a minimal upset, especially if Grand Canyon goes on to lose and you have them, losing in that next round of 32 or whatever it may be. So you just got to really think about how you fill this out. But obviously this is just for laughs and gigs. So I like the fun and excitement of this.
I'm just trying to be like a strategic courtside conjurer here, just
I like that.
Sniping these upsets.
Well, some of these will come true and you'll look like a genius. So.
Well, that would be nice, yeah. All right, I got to kind of pick up the pace here and churn through these, but I've got Nevada over Dayton, 10 seed upsetting the 7 seed, and then I've got an easy pick here, Arizona beating Long Beach State. Heading on over to the South, I am going to take Houston over Longwood, obvious pick there. I'm taking all of the 1 seeds, just to make that clear.
Yeah, everyone should do that this year.
I'm going to roll with Texas A&M over Nebraska, kind of because I wanted to see a Houston-Texas A&M matchup. Then I'm going to roll with Wisconsin over James Madison, although I do have a feeling you probably picked James Madison here. I think this will be a good.
I did, yeah.
I think that'll be a good game. Then I'm going to roll with Duke over Vermont. And then moving on to Texas Tech at NC State, I'm going to take the 11 seed NC State to upset Texas Tech here. Then we've got Kentucky at Oakland. I'm going to roll with Kentucky here. And then we've got Florida at Boise or Colorado. And I'm going to take Florida. And then finally, we've got Marquette at Western Kentucky. I'm going to take Marquette here. And then bringing it on down to the Midwest, the final sort of quarter of this bracket, taking Purdue over, is that Montana State or Grambling?
Yeah.
I believe. Okay, yeah. Then I've got TCU over Utah State. Got another upset here. McNeese over Gonzaga. 12 seed taking down the 5 seed. So, yeah, that would be my second 12 over 5 pick.
Mm-hmm.
Then I've got Kansas over Samford. Now, I've got a feeling you probably picked Samford. I have not looked at your bracket yet, but did you pick Samford here?
I did not,
No.
but I would be tempted to because Kansas does have some injuries right now with some of their best players. And even though they may play, they may not be 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So I am not a big fan of this game here. But even if I do have Kansas winning, but I don't have them winning in the next round.
Okay, gotcha. I actually have them making it into the
Yeah,
Final Four
I
here.
don't
Which
see that at all.
Okay.
They've been so bad.
They're going to be electric this year.
Yeah, maybe they might heat up.
Yeah, they'll surpass the injuries.
I hope so.
All right. Next, I've got South Carolina here to beat Oregon. 6 seed taking down the 11 seed. Now another wacky upset.
Well, we like Akron.
I know. We have to pick Akron here over the Creighton team because even though it's the 14 seed over the 3 seed, Akron won us our conference tournament pool.
They did.
I know that you said that, they're the Kangaroos. Which
Akron is kind of my lucky team.
Yeah, exactly. I'm hoping, did you pick them or no?
I can't do it.
Dude, how can
I can't
you not?
do it. Creighton, I think Crayon's really good. I have them going to the Elite 8 in one of my brackets, maybe even multiple of them. I really do like Creighton.
I don't know how you can bet against your favorite animal.
Because I want to win. And I'm trying to do this logically. If I went emotionally, I mean Charleston, Grand Canyon, Vermont, McNeese, Samford, they'd all be winning.
Okay. All right, whatever you say. Just know that when you texted me and said I'm going to put an emotional hedge bet on Kent State when I said not to because Akron's going to win, and then you listened and Akron won.
Well, sometimes you have to do those emotional head bets so that you're happy either way on the outside, on the outcome.
Yeah, but if you didn't do the emotional hedge, then you still were happy because Akron won. So.
Well, I'm glad they did. Trust me, I'm very happy they did.
I know you are. All right. Last 2 games here in round 1. I've got Texas taking down UVA/CSU, and then Tennessee beating St. Peter's. I am not betting on St. Peter's to make their little run like they did last year. The Peacocks are not going to be as propitious as they were last year.
Fair enough.
All right. Going back up to the top here in the East, I'm going to take UConn to beat FAU. Not an upset here. I've got San Diego State beating Yale here. So the Yale run comes to an end after the first round. Then Morehead State, bro.
They surge.
Dude, you got to keep riding them. You have to. and then I've got Iowa State beating Drake to close that one out.
Okay.
Heading down to the West, I've got UNC beating Michigan State. For the second game, Grand Canyon beating Charleston. Then I've got Colgate beating Clemson.
Jesus.
14 seed over the 6 seed. The Colgate run continues.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. And then Arizona beating Nevada. Easy pick, Arizona.
Desert matchup.
Team. Yeah, desert matchup. Then back up to the South here. I'm going to take Houston over Texas A&M. Then I'm going to go with, should be a little bit of an upset here, Wisconsin over Duke, 5 seed being the 4 seed.
That would be.
Yeah, because I know that Duke's normally historically been very solid, but I think Wisconsin got a good chance here. Then I've got NC State, the 11 seed, beating the 3 seed in Kentucky.
That's wild.
Yeah, I know. I've got a lot of upset picks in here.
That's exciting, though. That's what the people want.
Yeah, I agree.
Like we talked about earlier.
Yeah, that's what people want to see. And then finally, I've got Marquette beating Florida. Down to the West. I already did that one. Down to the Midwest, rather. I've got Purdue beating TCU. Then I've got Kansas over McNeese. Then I have South Carolina over Akron. And then Tennessee over Texas. I think this is the first time that I had to pick against my future home being Texas.
Right, but at least you're still picking Houston.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. All right, we're up to the Sweet 16 now. I am going to take UConn to beat San Diego State, and Iowa State. You have to say goodbye to Morehead State. After 2 rounds, you can't even go for Morehead, dude.
I was going to say, yeah, you can't.
That's too much head.
You're getting greedy at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna take Iowa State here to make it to the Sweet 16. Going down to the West, I'm taking UNC over Grand Canyon, and then Arizona over Colgate. So the Colgate run comes to an end as well.
Fair enough, as it should.
All right, up to the South, taking Houston over Wisconsin, but I think this one's going to be a really good game. Very tight matchup. I think Houston might only win by like a couple points.
Okay.
And then I've got Marquette over NC State. Down to the Midwest, I'm taking Kansas to upset Purdue. I know you don't like that pick because you've been talking about the Kansas injuries, but I've got a sneaky feeling about Kansas here. Purdue lost to Wisconsin earlier. They're definitely liable to lose to these lower seeds, man.
They definitely could. I don't see them going too far.
Yeah. All right, and then I've got Tennessee over South Carolina. Okay. Now we've got our Elite 8. So I'm taking Iowa State here over UConn. Upset pick. I know a lot of people have UConn as a favorite to win. I think Iowa State beats them here in the Elite 8. Then I'm taking North Carolina, UNC over Arizona. Then Houston over Marquette. And finally, Kansas over Tennessee. Got Kansas making it all the way to the Final Four. I love the Kansas pick this year, dude.
The Jayhawks?
Oh, yeah. All right, Final Four. Iowa State at UNC. I am taking Iowa State to upset UNC and make it into the finals. And then I'm taking Houston to get the win over Kansas, and the championship to be Iowa State against Houston. I'm rolling with Houston. It's the future town of my residence, at least.
Future town of Jake.
Yeah, exactly. They were so good to me all season long, at least in football, I mean. And so I need to ride them for the NCAA
it's not a bad pick
men's
at all.
basketball tournament too. And then I'm also going to put in 161 as the score pick, or the tiebreaker score thing.
Yeah, I think it would be a little lower scoring. Houston's games are always lower scoring with that great defense of theirs. But I like it. I'm probably going to end up in a similar spot. Don't want to spoil it, but we will see here. It's time for me to rip through
I'm excited. Let's hear it. I know you're not going to have as many upsets as I will, but
I try to do this very realistically with the common percentages traditionally of what happens, which means I'm going to take every 1 seed, including UConn, Houston, Purdue, and North Carolina. Just does not happen all that much. I don't see it happening this year. None of the 16 seeds seem like a threat to me. This FAU Northwestern game seems pretty close, but I'm going to take Northwestern. FAU couldn't even beat Temple, who was seated a lot lower than them in the conference tournament, so I like Northwestern there. UAB's kind of hot right now. They won that same league. They beat Temple in their conference, but I'm going to take San Diego State. They're just a lot more of a veteran in this space, and they've been pretty solid all year round. Definitely going to take Auburn against Yale. Definitely taking BYU over Duquesne, who kind of made a Cinderella run to get into the tournament, steal one of the bids. Illinois is one of my favorite teams this year, not just because I'm in Illinois. Honestly, I'm not really a fan of the university itself, but I do like them a lot. This year, I also like Drake to beat Washington State. I believe Washington State's a point underdog, so it's not even that big of a surprise here to take Drake. Definitely taking Iowa State over South Dakota State here as well. South Dakota State barely played anyone all year. Going over to the South region here, we already have Houston. I will be taking Texas A&M over Nebraska. I think they might also... Nebraska is favored in that game by 2, I think it is, maybe. But A&M is just hotter the way that they play in the SEC tournament. Wisconsin, you could say, has gotten pretty hot lately, but I am going to take James Madison. They already proved that they can beat good teams. They beat Michigan State earlier in the year, and they just rode through their conference, and just super impressive to see them come up from D2 or from the FCS level, in football, and make a bowl, have a great record in football, and then do a very similar kind of run here in the basketball realm. As much as I'd love to see Vermont beat Duke, they got a tough draw here. If they got another 4 seed that's not Auburn, I might have picked them, but I'm going to take the Blue Blood Duke. NC State, another team that's very hot. Very happy that they beat North Carolina, but I like Texas Tech here. Definitely like Kentucky over Oakland. Now, Florida here, I don't really like Boise State or Colorado. Actually, no, I mean to say, like, I don't really like Florida, but I don't really like those other 2 teams all that much either. So I'm going to go with Florida here. Begrudgingly, however you say that. Begrudgingly, there it is. Definitely taking Marquette over Western Kentucky. Going over back to the West here, I like Michigan State over Mississippi State. I think under Tom Izzo, the coach of Michigan State, they actually have a winning percentage when they are seated lower than their opponents. I like St. Mary's over Grand Canyon. Would love to see Grand Canyon go forward, but just don't see it happening here. They got a bad draw with the 5 seed. Alabama will be able to beat Charleston. New Mexico, they are favored over Clemson, and so I definitely like them over Clemson. Clemson's been very disappointing, just kind of like a paper tiger in my opinion. But I do like Baylor over Colgate, definitely like Nevada over Dayton. They're also favored over Dayton despite it being seated lower. And Arizona over Long Beach State. Going over to the Midwest here, we already have Purdue. I like TCU over Utah State. They play in both very difficult conferences, but I think TCU is just more equipped to take on Utah State, who's been a little inconsistent this year. I also think McNeese got a bad draw in terms of their 5 seed. If they got another one of these seeds over here like St. Mary's, I'd honestly be more inclined to pick them, but I'm going to have to go with Gonzaga here. And also begrudgingly going to take Kansas, even though they're injured. I just don't think Sanford is going to be able to do much damage against Kansas, who is obviously one of the historic greats. I like Oregon over South Carolina, though, because of how hot they've come in. They had to win their conference tournament. They did. They looked dominant doing it. They beat Arizona in the process. And South Carolina has lost to Auburn twice by a combined 70 points. So they just don't play well up against some of these better teams. I'm also going to take Creighton here, Akron, another team that just has not played anyone really outside their conference. So I really like Creighton in this spot. Now, here's the one where the play-in team I would like to know, because I think Colorado State would have a much better shot of being Texas than Virginia. But I just don't want to go through that whole extrapolation process thinking, oh, well, all right, I'm going to take Colorado State to beat Virginia. Then I'm going to take Colorado State to beat Texas. I'm just going to say no. I'm just going to take Texas and definitely going to take Tennessee. Let's go back up to the top here. I'm going to take UConn over Northwestern. I'm going to take Auburn over San Diego State, taking Illinois for sure over BYU. And Drake's run here kind of ends at Iowa State. Going over to the other side here, the South, most certainly taking Houston. Duke is going to progress. Even though I don't love them this year, they got a pretty easy path to the 16 here. We have Kentucky, Texas Tech. This is a tough pick for me. I think this could go either way, but I'm going to roll with Kentucky. I am going to also roll with Marquette. I'm not very high on Florida right now. I could see them even losing earlier, like I said. I like North Carolina over Michigan State. This is where I like St. Mary's to beat Alabama. Alabama, you're done. I like, oh man, this is one of the hardest games for me to pick, but I'm going to go with New Mexico here. Baylor just did not impress me. I really thought they would perform a little bit better in their conference tournament in the Big 12 there, but they did not. So unfortunately, I'm going to ride with New Mexico. I like Arizona here to beat Nevada, so we have a little desert matchup to assess coming up. Going over to the Midwest, definitely taking Purdue. See, this is so wild to me. This section of the bracket here is just so light. I mean, for Gonzaga or Kansas to have such an easy path to the Sweet 16 is wild to me. But because of Kansas's injuries, I'm going to go with Gonzaga. And then moving down here, I like Creighton over Oregon. I like Tennessee over Texas. Those two are pretty easy to me. Let's go back on up to the Sweet 16 round here. I am going to roll with Auburn. I really liked UConn initially, but thinking about it more, it's so hard to take them to go far
pick,
again.
Man. It's a big pick.
Auburn is impressed lately. I mean, winning the SEC. I think with UConn, they will just hit a little bit of a stop here. I mean, they have not played great competition. The Big East has not been as good as it has been in the past.
Yeah.
And to go back to back, or even to win the whole thing and then make the Elite Eight the next year, I mean, that's just tough to do. So I'm going to take Auburn here. I'm going to take Illinois against Iowa State. Definitely taking Houston over Duke. Don't think that game is really much of a contest. And I do like Marquette over Kentucky here. So we have a couple of the higher seeds and a couple of the lower seeds coming out of those regions. I like North Carolina to beat St. Mary's. Just think St. Mary's run ends there. I like Arizona to beat New Mexico in a little bit of a desert rivalry. Purdue over Gonzaga. Purdue got such an easy path to the Elite Eight here. And I like Creighton over Tennessee. Tennessee's disappointed me as of late. Then we have Auburn over Illinois. It's going to be Auburn. I'm going to take Auburn here. I'm going to take Houston. Then we have North Carolina, Arizona. I like Arizona to beat North Carolina. North Carolina is another one that just is not really shown to have that X factor this year, but they've also had a relatively easier path to the Elite Eight. And then I am going to take Purdue to go on a deep run here. I think finally defy those expectations and, the massive disappointment that they incurred upon themselves last year, losing in the first round. And then I'm going to take Auburn over Arizona, and I'm going to take Houston over Purdue, setting up a national championship of Auburn and Houston. I'm going to take Houston. Because of Houston's defense, I'm going to make this a lower scoring game at 147 total points scored. And there you guys have it. That is the perfect bracket, or at least one of them, because yours will be perfect as well in some alternative reality. We'll see what happens.
Exactly.
But
dude, I'm so excited that you picked Houston too. It's like you absolutely revolutionized yourself from
I'm a changed man.
You would pick against Houston every week in the football season.
I wanted to be different, so the first one I did was UConn, but then I just kept thinking about it. I can't have UConn winning back-to-back like that.
Right.
So it just feels like it's going to be Houston's year. And in terms of having like a good analytical bracket, I think this is a solid one. You might want to have another one seed in here if you were going to be very, focused on just getting that Final Four right. Having the 4 seed Auburn in there. But Auburn is one of the most beloved teams analytically. They just have such a high upside. So that is my bracket for you guys, and those are both of our brackets. I know that was a little long-winded, but we wanted to be thorough and give you guys a little bit of an explanation on everything there. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you filled out a bracket, who's your national title, who's your Final Four, would love to hear it in the comments down below.